A 12-year-old girl embarks alone on her first international flight, unaware that she is about to rewrite her own story. During the trip, an unknown businessman drops an intimate photo of her family, sparking a mystery that threatens everything she believes she knows. When he suffers a heart attack and murmurs names from her past, doubt turns into an urgent need for answers. It is the beginning of a transformative journey, where truth, courage, and chosen love intertwine in a quest that goes far beyond heritage. If this story interested you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tell us what city you're watching us from. We'll keep going. Lily Bennett stared at the boarding pass clutched in her small hands, the reality of her first solo flight finally sinking in. At 12 years old, she had never traveled beyond the weathered borders of Millfield, Connecticut, let alone boarded a plane by herself. But now, standing in the bustling terminal of Bradley International Airport, she was about to fly across the country to San Francisco. "Remember what I told you," her grandmother Margaret said, adjusting Lily's backpack. "Seatbelt fastened during takeoff and landing. Don't talk to strangers and call me the minute you land." Lily nodded, her pale blue eyes focused on the gleaming floor tiles. The mysterious letter had arrived 3 weeks ago, addressed to her in elegant handwriting. An inheritance awaited her in California, something that belonged to her by birthright. The accompanying plane ticket and the promise that all expenses would be covered had convinced her cash-strapped grandmother to let her go. "I still don't understand why they couldn't just mail whatever it is," Margaret muttered, her arthritis-twisted fingers smoothing Lily's blonde hair. "Or why they insisted a child travel alone." Lily didn't understand either, but something about the letter had awakened a yearning she couldn't explain. For 5 years, since her father's accident that left him in an unresponsive state in a long-term care facility, and her mother's subsequent disappearance, Lily had lived with her grandmother in their small 2-bedroom apartment above the town's struggling hardware store. "Final boarding call for Flight 1857 to San Francisco." The announcement echoed through the terminal, making Lily jump. "That's you," Margaret said, her voice breaking slightly. "You have the emergency phone numbers?" "In my backpack and memorized," Lily replied, forcing a brave smile. "And I have the lawyer's contact information for when I land." The hug was quick but fierce, her grandmother's familiar scent of lavender and mint enveloping her one last time before Lily turned toward the gate. She handed her boarding pass to the attendant, who gave her a sympathetic smile and a bright yellow unaccompanied minor badge that made her flush with embarrassment. On the plane, Lily settled into her window seat, watching the ground crew through the small oval window. The memories of her father flooded back, Robert Bennett with his kind eyes and patient hands. He had been a mechanic, working long hours at the local garage to support them. His hands were always stained with grease, but they were gentle when he braided her hair before school or wiped away her tears after playground taunts. "A family isn't made of blood, Lilypad," he would say, using his special nickname for her. "It's made of chosen love." She had never questioned why she didn't look like him, her blonde hair and blue eyes so different from his dark features. It had never mattered until the accident 5 years ago, when a truck had crashed into his car, leaving him in a persistent vegetative state. The doctors said he might never wake up, but Lily still visited him every Sunday, talking to him about her week, believing somewhere inside he could hear her. After the accident, her mother Sarah had changed. The vibrant woman who sang in the kitchen and planted white roses in their tiny backyard had retreated into herself. The depression and anxiety that had always lingered beneath the surface consumed her. 3 months later, she checked herself into a psychiatric facility, leaving only a tear-stained note promising she would return when she was better. She never did. Life with grandmother Margaret was stable but sparse. There was never enough money, and Lily had learned to ignore the pitying glances from classmates when she wore the same clothes too many days in a row or couldn't join field trips that required extra fees. "Is this seat taken?" Lily looked up to see a man in an expensive suit, gesturing to the aisle seat in her row. He was tall, with silver-streaked dark hair, and carried himself with the confidence of someone used to commanding rooms. "No, sir," she replied, quickly looking back out the window. As the man settled in, Lily noticed him glancing at her several times, his expression unreadable. There was something familiar about his eyes, the same piercing blue as her own, but she dismissed the thought as the cabin crew began their safety demonstration. When the plane took off, Lily closed her eyes, gripping the armrests. She had joined the first aid program at school last year, partly to avoid the cafeteria, where Emma and her friends whispered about her faded clothes, and partly because it offered free snacks during meetings. The instructor, Mrs. Reynolds, had told them that focusing on breathing helped with anxiety, so Lily counted her breaths as the plane climbed higher. "First flight?" the man asked when the plane leveled out. Lily nodded, not wanting to engage, but remembering her grandmother's lessons about politeness. "I'm William Harding," he said, extending his hand, "CEO of Harding Technologies." "Lily Bennett," she replied, shaking his hand briefly before returning to her book, a dog-eared copy of The Secret Garden that had belonged to her mother. William seemed to freeze at her name, his hand hovering in the air for a moment too long. He cleared his throat and opened his laptop, but Lily noticed he wasn't typing anything, just staring at the screen. 2 hours into the flight, turbulence hit. The plane dropped suddenly, causing Lily's stomach to lurch. Drinks spilled, overhead compartments rattled, and the captain's voice came over the intercom, instructing everyone to return to their seats and fasten their seatbelts. William fumbled with some papers and a photograph slipped out, landing at Lily's feet. She picked it up, intending to hand it back when the image registered in her mind. A young couple stood in front of a Christmas tree. The woman was unmistakably her mother, younger and happier than Lily had ever seen her, and the man beside her, with his arm wrapped around her waist, was William. "This is my mom," Lily said, her voice barely audible over the roar of the engines and the rattling cabin. William's face paled. "I can explain," he began, but a violent jolt of the plane cut him off. He clutched his chest suddenly, his breathing becoming labored. "Sir, are you okay?" Lily asked, alarm rising in her throat. William couldn't speak. His face contorted in pain, and he slumped forward in his seat. Without thinking, Lily pressed the call button frantically. A flight attendant hurried over, her professional composure cracking at the sight of William's condition. "He's having a heart attack," Lily said, remembering Mrs. Reynolds' lessons. "We need to lay him flat and start CPR if he loses consciousness." The flight attendant looked momentarily startled by the young girl's knowledge, but quickly called for any medical professionals on board. As the plane made preparations for an emergency landing in Denver, Lily helped move William to the floor of the galley area, where there was more space. "Stay with me," she urged, holding his hand. "Please, stay with me." In his pain-filled delirium, William's eyes fixed on Lily's face. "Sarah," he murmured. "I'm sorry. Robert. He was a better man than me." "Always was." Lily froze. How did this stranger know her parents' names? "Lily," William whispered, his voice fading. "My daughter. Always watching from afar. Your father, not who you think." Then his eyes closed, and the medical emergency took over everything else. As the plane made its emergency descent, Lily sat back in her seat, the photograph still clutched in her hand, William's words echoing in her mind. The foundation of everything she believed about herself had just been shaken to its core. The fluorescent lights of Denver Memorial Hospital cast harsh shadows across the waiting room. Lily sat alone on a plastic chair, her backpack clutched to her chest like a shield. The emergency landing had been chaotic. Flight attendants rushing, passengers murmuring anxiously, and William being whisked away on a stretcher the moment the plane touched down. She had tried to follow, desperate for answers, but a kindly airport official had guided her to the hospital's waiting area instead. "Someone will be with you soon, honey," the woman had promised before disappearing to handle other redirected passengers. That had been 3 hours ago. Lily's phone showed 4 missed calls from her grandmother, but she couldn't bring herself to return them. What would she say? That she'd met a man on the plane who had a photograph of her mother, that he might be her biological father. The thought was too overwhelming. Instead, she stared at the photograph she had slipped into her pocket during the commotion. Her mother looked so young, maybe only 22 or 23. Her smile was wide and genuine, not the fragile, forced expression Lily remembered from her later years. And the way she leaned into William, eyes bright with adoration, told a story Lily had never heard. "Are you waiting for someone, dear?" Lily looked up to see an older woman with silver-streaked auburn hair watching her with kind eyes. She wore street clothes, but the lanyard around her neck identified her as Eleanor Simmons, RN, retired. I don't know what to call him," Lily admitted. "A man from my flight had a heart attack. They brought him here." Eleanor sat beside her, leaving a respectful distance between them. And you're here all alone? Where are your parents? The question, innocent as it was, brought tears to Lily's eyes. My dad's in a care facility back home. He had an accident 5 years ago, and my mom, she's gone. It wasn't a lie, not really. Sarah Bennett might as well have vanished from the earth for all the contact they'd had. I'm sorry, sweetheart, Eleanor said, her voice softening. I'm waiting for my daughter to pick me up. Her car broke down, and she's running late. Mind if I wait with you? Lily shrugged, but something about Eleanor's gentle presence was comforting. Perhaps it was the faint scent of vanilla that reminded her of Sunday baking with her mother, or maybe it was the way Eleanor didn't press for details. I'm Lily, she offered after a moment. Eleanor, but everyone calls me Ellie. She smiled. I was a nurse here for 30 years before I retired last spring. Still can't stay away from the place, it seems. A doctor emerged from the double doors, scanning the waiting room. Family of William Harding? Lily hesitated, then stood. Is he okay? The doctor approached, his expression softening when he saw how young she was. Are you here alone? We need to speak with a family member. Lily swallowed hard. I think I might be his daughter. The doctor looked skeptical, but Ellie stood and placed a reassuring hand on Lily's shoulder. I'm a family friend, she said smoothly. The child's mother is unavailable. How is William doing? Something in Ellie's authoritative tone must have convinced him. Mr. Harding is stable. He experienced a mild heart attack, but we were able to intervene quickly. He's asking for Lily. Can I see him? Lily asked, her voice small. The doctor nodded. Briefly. He needs rest. Ellie gave Lily's shoulder a gentle squeeze. I'll be right here if you need me, dear. Following the doctor through the sterile corridors, Lily's mind raced. What would she say to William? What questions should she ask first? But when she entered the room and saw him lying there, connected to monitors with IV lines in his arms, all her prepared words vanished. William looked smaller somehow, vulnerable in the hospital gown. When he saw her, relief washed over his features. Lily, you came. She approached the bed cautiously. They said you were asking for me. I owe you an explanation, he said, his voice raspy. About the photograph, about everything. Lily pulled the picture from her pocket and placed it on the bedside table. That's my mum. William nodded, his eyes never leaving her face. Sarah Caldwell. That was her name before she married Robert Bennett. You knew my dad too? Lily asked, her heart pounding. A complicated expression crossed William's face. Pain, guilt, and something like respect. Robert was a good man. The best man I've ever known, actually. How do you know my parents? And why do you have this picture? William took a labored breath. In the 90s, your mother worked at my company's marketing department. We became close. Very close. He paused, watching her reaction carefully. When she told me she was pregnant, I was already married with a family of my own. I made the worst mistake of my life, Lily. I chose my marriage and my company over her. Over you. The world seemed to tilt beneath Lily's feet. You're saying... Robert worked in the building maintenance department. He had always admired Sarah from afar. When everyone else abandoned her, he stepped up. He married her, gave you his name, and loved you as his own. William's voice broke. He was more of a father to you than I ever could have been. Lily backed away from the bed, shaking her head. No, my dad is my dad. He taught me to ride a bike. He read me stories every night. He loved me. Yes, he did, William agreed softly. More than anything in the world. Then why are you telling me this now? Lily demanded, anger rising through her confusion. Why did you send for me after all these years? William looked startled. Send for you? Lily, I didn't know you would be on that flight. It was fate or coincidence or whatever you want to call it. Now it was Lily's turn to be confused. But the letter, the inheritance in San Francisco. I don't know anything about that, William said. But I do know your mother isn't gone, Lily. She's in a psychiatric care facility in Marin County, just north of San Francisco. The revelation hit Lily like a physical blow. She's alive? She's been there all this time? William nodded grimly. After Robert's accident, Sarah couldn't cope. Her mental health deteriorated rapidly. She voluntarily admitted herself to Pinewood Retreat. I've been paying for her care anonymously all these years. It was the least I could do. Tears spilled down Lily's cheeks. She abandoned me, left me with Grandma when I needed her most. She didn't abandon you, Lily. She was protecting you from watching her fall apart. William reached for her hand, but she pulled away. I've kept tabs on you both from a distance. I have a folder of your school photos, newspaper clippings from when your science project won that regional fair. You've been stalking me? Lily backed further away. Watching over you, William corrected, wincing as he tried to sit up straighter. I never interfered because Robert made me promise. He knew the truth, Lily. Before you were born, he came to me, man to man, and said he would raise you as his own on one condition, that I stay away unless you needed me. Memories flooded back. Her father teaching her to braid her own hair when her mother started having her sad days. His patient voice explaining that her mother's mind got sick sometimes, just like people's bodies could get sick, the way he never raised his voice, not even when she spilled juice on his work uniform or broke his favorite mug. But I did need you, Lily whispered. After the accident, when Mom left, when everything fell apart. Where were you then? William's face crumpled with shame. I was a coward. By the time I worked up the courage to approach your grandmother, you seemed settled. I convinced myself it would only confuse you more to have a stranger suddenly appear claiming to be your father. A nurse appeared in the doorway. I'm sorry, but Mr. Harding needs to rest now. Lily nodded, relieved for the interruption. Her mind was spinning with too many revelations, too many questions without answers. Lily, wait, William called as she reached the door. The lawyers in San Francisco. Are they from Hamilton and Reed? She pulled the crumpled letter from her backpack and checked. Yes, how did you know? They're my attorneys, William said, his expression grave. Whatever this inheritance is, it's connected to me somehow. Please be careful. And call me when you land in San Francisco. I'll have my assistant book me on the next flight out after they discharge me. Lily didn't respond. She fled the room, nearly colliding with Ellie in the hallway. Whoa there, Ellie said, steadying her. Everything okay? Lily shook her head, tears streaming down her face. Nothing is okay. Everything I thought I knew about my life is a lie. Ellie guided her to a quiet corner of the waiting room and simply held her while she cried. When the tears finally subsided, Lily found herself telling this kind stranger everything. About her father in the care facility, her mother's disappearance and William's shocking revelations. That's quite a burden for young shoulders, Ellie said when Lily finished. But can I tell you something? I lost my daughter Jessica years ago. The one thing I've learned is that family isn't always about blood. My dad used to say the same thing, Lily whispered. Ellie smiled sadly. Smart man, your dad. Now what's your plan? The airline told me they can get you on a flight to San Francisco tomorrow morning. Lily took a deep breath, making a decision. I need to find out who sent that letter, and I need to see my mom. The San Francisco skyline emerged through wisps of morning fog as Lily's plane began its descent. She had barely slept in the Denver airport hotel where the airline had placed her overnight. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the photograph of her mother and William, their smiling faces haunting her dreams. Ellie had stayed with her until her daughter arrived, exchanging phone numbers and making Lily promise to call if she needed anything. Sometimes it's easier to talk to a stranger, she had said, especially one who won't judge you for your feelings. That simple kindness had been the only bright spot in the whirlwind of the past 24 hours. Lily had finally called her grandmother late last night, fabricating a story about flight delays due to weather. She couldn't bring herself to mention William or the revelations about her parents. Margaret had enough worries without adding this confusion to the mix. As passengers began disembarking, Lily felt a surge of panic. She was supposed to meet someone from Hamilton and Reed law firm at the arrival gate, but she had no idea who to look for or what this mysterious inheritance might be. Lily Bennett? A woman in a crisp navy suit stood near the gate, holding a small sign with her name. She was tall and elegant, with a no-nonsense expression that softened slightly when she saw Lily. I'm Lily, she confirmed, adjusting her backpack nervously. Andrea Warren from Hamilton and Reed. The woman extended her hand. I hope your flight was comfortable. Lily nodded, not mentioning the emergency landing in Denver or her encounter with William. Can you tell me what this is about? The letter wasn't very specific. We'll discuss everything at the office, Andrea replied, gesturing toward the exit. The car is waiting. The drive through San Francisco was a blur of steep hills, colorful Victorian houses, and glimpses of the bay. Under different circumstances, Lily might have been awestruck by the Golden Gate Bridge looming in the distance, or the charming cable cars climbing the city's impossible inclines. Instead, she stared out the window in a daze, wondering what new revelations awaited her. Hamilton and Reed occupied the top 3 floors of a gleaming downtown skyscraper. The elevator whisked them to the 42nd floor, where Andrea led Lily through a maze of corridors to a conference room with sweeping views of the city. "Can I get you anything? Water? Soda?" Andrea asked as Lily took a seat at the massive table. "Just answers, please," Lily replied, summoning courage she didn't know she possessed. Andrea smiled faintly. "Mr. Hamilton will be with you shortly. He's handling this matter personally." Left alone, Lily pulled out her phone and saw a text from William. "Discharged this morning. Flying to SF this afternoon. Please wait for me before making any decisions." She didn't respond. Whatever this inheritance was, she wanted to face it on her own terms, not with William hovering over her shoulder. The door opened, and a distinguished older man entered, followed by Andrea and another man carrying a laptop. "Miss Bennett, I'm Howard Hamilton," the older man said, taking a seat across from her. "Thank you for coming such a long way. I understand this must be confusing for you." "Very," Lily agreed. "Why am I here?" Hamilton nodded to his colleague, who opened the laptop and pulled up a document. "Before we begin, I need to verify your identity. Your full name is Lily Grace Bennett, born April 17, 2013 to Sarah Caldwell Bennett and Robert James Bennett in Millfield, Connecticut?" "Yes," Lily confirmed, her mouth dry. "That's me, and you're currently residing with your maternal grandmother, Margaret Caldwell, following your father's accident and your mother's absence." Lily nodded, unable to trust her voice. Hamilton removed his glasses, polishing them carefully before continuing. "Lily, what I'm about to tell you is quite sensitive. Are you certain you wouldn't prefer to have a guardian present?" "My grandmother couldn't make the trip," Lily said firmly. "Please just tell me why I'm here." Hamilton sighed. "Very well. In 2013, shortly after your birth, a trust was established in your name by a benefactor who wished to remain anonymous. This trust contains substantial assets that will become fully accessible to you when you turn 21. However, there are provisions for educational expenses and healthcare that can be accessed now." "A trust fund?" Lily blinked in confusion. "But we've been struggling financially since Dad's accident. If this money existed, why didn't anyone tell us?" "The benefactor had specific instructions. The trust was to remain sealed until you turned 12, at which point you were to be informed of its existence personally." Hamilton slid a folder across the table. "This contains the full details, but in simple terms, you are the beneficiary of approximately $4 million. The room seemed to tilt. $4 million? But who would give me that kind of money? As I mentioned, the benefactor requested anonymity. "It was William Harding, wasn't it?" Lily demanded, suddenly certain. Hamilton's surprise was evident. "You're acquainted with Mr. Harding?" "We met on the plane," Lily said, not elaborating. "He had a heart attack during the flight. He's flying in today." Hamilton and Andrea exchanged concerned glances. "This is unexpected," Hamilton said. "Mr. Harding did establish this trust, but he was quite insistent that his identity be protected." "Why?" Lily pressed. "Why set up a trust fund for me but stay out of my life? Why let my grandmother work 2 jobs to make ends meet while this money just sat here?" Hamilton cleared his throat uncomfortably. "The arrangement was complex, Miss Bennett. There were conditions established by multiple parties." A suspicion formed in Lily's mind. "My dad knew about this, didn't he? He made William promise to stay away." "Robert Bennett was indeed aware of the trust," Hamilton confirmed. "He agreed to its establishment, but insisted that the funds not be accessible until you were of age, except in case of emergency. He was quite adamant that you be raised without the influence of wealth or the knowledge of your biological connection to Mr. Harding." "My dad was protecting me," Lily whispered, more to herself than anyone else. She remembered his constant emphasis on the value of hard work, his gentle lessons about appreciating what they had rather than yearning for what they didn't. He had wanted her to grow up normal, not as the secret heiress to a tech fortune. "There's more, Miss Bennett," Hamilton said gently. "The letter that brought you here wasn't just about the trust. There's another matter, a property in Marin County that was purchased in your name." "A property? Like a house?" "A small cottage near Pinewood Retreat Center," Hamilton explained. It was acquired 5 years ago with instructions that it be maintained until you were old enough to be informed of its existence. Pinewood Retreat, the psychiatric facility where her mother had been all these years. The coincidence was too great. Did my mother know about this cottage? Lily asked. Hamilton hesitated. I'm not at liberty to discuss Sarah Bennett's knowledge or involvement. However, I can tell you that the property is within walking distance of Pinewood, and it has been kept ready for occupancy. The implications crashed over Lily like a wave. A house near her mother's treatment center, purchased right after her father's accident. It couldn't be a coincidence. I want to see it, she said firmly. Today. Miss Bennett, there are procedures, paperwork. I've come all this way, Lily interrupted. Please, I need to see this place. Hamilton exchanged glances with Andrea, who nodded slightly. We can arrange for a car to take you there this afternoon, he conceded. But I strongly suggest you wait for Mr. Harding's arrival. There are aspects of this situation that would be better explained by him. Lily stood, her decision made. I'll find my own way there. That's not advisable, Andrea interjected. Marin County is across the Golden Gate Bridge. You'd need to navigate public transportation or take an expensive taxi. As a minor traveling alone, I managed to fly across the country by myself, Lily pointed out. I think I can handle a bus or train. Hamilton raised his hands in surrender. At least allow us to provide transportation. Andrea can accompany you to ensure your safety. The compromise seemed reasonable, but Lily wasn't finished. There's one more thing. I want to know if William Harding has been in contact with my mother all these years. A tense silence filled the room. That's a question for Mr. Harding, Hamilton said finally. But I can tell you that the arrangements for your mother's care have been handled through this firm, with strict confidentiality protocols in place. Lily absorbed this information, trying to piece together the puzzle of her family's past. When did William set up this trust? Was it before I was born or after? The initial paperwork was drawn up shortly after your mother informed him of her pregnancy, Hamilton admitted. It was finalized after your birth, with Robert Bennett as a signatory. So William hadn't completely abandoned them. He had provided financially, if not emotionally. But why had he stayed away completely? Why had her mother never mentioned him? I'd like those files, Lily said, pointing to the folder, and I want to leave for Marin County as soon as possible. Hamilton nodded, sliding the folder closer to her. Andrea will make the arrangements. The keys to the cottage are inside, along with the address and access codes. As Andrea stepped out to organize transportation, Lily opened the folder. Inside was a thick legal document, a set of keys attached to a wooden keychain shaped like a rose, and a sealed envelope with her name written in handwriting she recognized instantly. Her mother's handwriting. With trembling fingers, Lily picked up the envelope. Has this been here all along? Hamilton nodded. It was to be given to you along with the information about the trust. There's another letter that will be provided when you turn 18 and a final one at 21. Lily stared at her name, written in her mother's elegant script. 5 years of silence, and now this, a letter that had been waiting patiently while she believed herself abandoned. I'd like some privacy, please, she requested, her voice barely above a whisper. Hamilton stood. Of course, take all the time you need. Andrea will be ready whenever you are. When the door closed behind him, Lily carefully opened the envelope, her heart pounding so hard she could feel it in her fingertips. Inside was a single sheet of paper, covered in her mother's familiar handwriting. My dearest Lily, it began. If you're reading this, you've reached your 12th birthday and I'm still not well enough to come home to you. Lily read the letter 3 times, each word searing itself into her memory. My dearest Lily, if you're reading this, you've reached your 12th birthday and I'm still not well enough to come home to you. First, I need you to know that leaving you was the hardest thing I've ever done. Every day without you feels like walking through the world with half my heart missing. After your father's accident, my mind betrayed me. The depression and anxiety that I'd fought all my life overwhelmed me completely. I couldn't get out of bed, couldn't eat, couldn't be the mother you deserved. I was terrified you would watch me disappear piece by piece, just as we were watching your father lie unresponsive in that hospital bed. I made the decision to seek intensive treatment at Pinewood Retreat. I thought it would be temporary, a few months at most. But healing has taken much longer than I expected. The doctors call it treatment-resistant depression, complicated by anxiety and post-traumatic stress disorder. The cottage near Pinewood was purchased so that when you were old enough, you could visit if you wanted to. I've never stopped hoping for the day when I could see you again. But I didn't want our reunion to be in a sterile hospital room with doctors hovering nearby. I need to tell you something important. Your father, Robert, was the most extraordinary man I've ever known. He loved you from the moment he knew about you, even before you were born, even knowing you weren't biologically his. He used to say that being your dad was the greatest privilege of his life. There's so much more to tell you about William, about the choices we all made, about the complicated web of promises and sacrifices that adults sometimes create, thinking they're protecting the people they love. But those are conversations we should have face to face. I plant white roses in the garden here at Pinewood. Remember how we used to grow them in our little backyard? You always said they smelled like hugs. I've never stopped growing them, hoping someday you would come see them in bloom. Whether you decide to visit me or not, please know that I love you endlessly. Your happiness is all that matters to me now. All my love, Mom. Tears blurred Lily's vision as she carefully folded the letter and placed it back in the envelope. For 5 years, she had believed her mother had abandoned her, chosen her own pain over her daughter's needs. The reality was more complex, and somehow both more painful and more comforting than the abandonment she had imagined. A gentle knock at the door pulled her from her thoughts. Andrea stepped in, her professional demeanor softened with concern. "Are you ready to go, Lily? The car is waiting." Lily nodded, gathering the folder and tucking the letter safely into her backpack. As they rode the elevator down to the lobby, she checked her phone and saw 3 missed calls from William and a text that read, "Just landed in SF. Please call me, it's important." She put the phone away without responding. Her emotions were too raw, her thoughts too chaotic to deal with William's demands right now. The sleek black car wound through San Francisco's busy streets before crossing the majestic Golden Gate Bridge. Under different circumstances, Lily would have been awestruck by the engineering marvel and the breathtaking views of the bay. Instead, she stared out the window in silence, mentally preparing herself for whatever awaited in Marin County. "The cottage is in Mill Valley," Andrea explained as they exited the highway. "It's a quiet community, very green. Lots of artists and writers live here." The road narrowed as they climbed into the hills, ancient redwoods towering alongside the pavement. After several turns onto increasingly smaller roads, they pulled up to a quaint cottage nestled among the trees. A simple wooden gate opened onto a stone path lined with Lily's breath caught white rose bushes in full bloom. "This is it," Andrea said unnecessarily. "Would you like me to come in with you?" Lily shook her head. "I need to do this alone." "I understand. I'll wait in the car. Take as long as you need." With shaking hands, Lily unlocked the front door. The cottage was small but charming, with sunlight streaming through large windows. It looked lived in rather than abandoned. Fresh flowers in a vase on the coffee table, books neatly arranged on shelves, a colorful throw draped over a comfortable-looking sofa. On the mantel above a small fireplace, Lily found photographs, pictures of herself at various ages, school portraits she recognized, but also candid shots she'd never seen before. Her 5th grade science fair, a Halloween costume parade, even a recent school orchestra concert where she'd played viola. Someone had been watching her all along, documenting her life from a distance. In the kitchen, a calendar hung on the wall with dates circled in red. Her birthday each year, Christmas, the anniversary of her father's accident. Next to the calendar was a child's drawing in a simple frame, a crayon picture of 3 stick figures holding hands beneath a yellow sun. Lily recognized her own artwork from kindergarten, labeled in her wobbly handwriting, "Mommy, Daddy, Me." The master bedroom was sparse but comfortable, with a queen-sized bed and simple furnishings. But it was the second bedroom that made Lily's heart stutter in her chest. It was decorated for a 12-year-old girl with purple walls, a desk for homework, and bookshelves filled with titles she loved. On the bed sat a stuffed rabbit, worn and faded, Mr. Flopsy, her childhood comfort toy that had disappeared years ago during one of their rushed moves after her father's accident. Lily picked up the rabbit, pressing it to her face. It still smelled faintly of home, of her mother's perfume, of safety. The tears came then, hot and fast, years of buried hurt and confusion pouring out as she clutched the stuffed animal to her chest. When the tears finally subsided, Lily explored the rest of the room. The desk drawer contained brand new school supplies and a journal with her name embossed on the cover. The closet held clothes in her size, not expensive designer items, but the kind of practical, comfortable clothes she preferred. This room hadn't been decorated by a wealthy businessman trying to buy affection. It had been prepared by someone who knew her, who understood her tastes and preferences, her mother. On the nightstand, Lily found a framed photograph she'd never seen before. It showed her father, Robert, holding her as an infant, his expression a mixture of pride and adoration as he gazed down at the tiny bundle in his arms. Behind them, partially visible, was her mother, watching them both with a look of such love, it made Lily's chest ache. Memories flooded back, her father teaching her to ride a bike in the empty parking lot behind their apartment building, reading her fairy tales with funny voices, singing, "You Are My Sunshine," when she had nightmares. She remembered his mechanic's hands, calloused and strong yet infinitely gentle when braiding her hair before school. "Her family isn't made of blood, Lilypad, but of chosen love," he would say whenever someone commented on their lack of physical resemblance. Lily sat on the edge of the bed, trying to reconcile these new revelations with the life she had known. Robert Bennett had chosen to be her father in every way that mattered. He had loved her knowing she wasn't biologically his, and her mother hadn't abandoned her, but had been fighting her own battles, trying to heal so she could return. And William? What was his role in all this? He had provided financially but remained distant, watching from afar. Was it respect for Robert's wishes that kept him away, or something else? A soft chime from her phone interrupted her thoughts. Another text from William. "Please call me. I know about the cottage. There are things you don't understand." Anger flared in Lily's chest. What right did he have to dictate her actions now, after years of absence? She texted back a curt reply. "I'm fine. I need time alone." Putting her phone on silent, Lily continued exploring the cottage. In a small study off the living room, she found a desk with a locked drawer. On impulse, she tried the smallest key on the ring. It fit perfectly. Inside was a leather-bound journal filled with her mother's handwriting. Opening to a random page, Lily read, "Today would have been Lily's 10th birthday. I baked a cake here in the Pinewood kitchen, but couldn't bring myself to eat any. I wonder if she still likes chocolate with raspberry filling. Does she still blow out candles with her eyes squeezed shut, making the same wish every year? Does she know how fiercely she is loved, even in my absence?" Lily flipped through the journal, realizing it was filled with letters to her, a chronicle of her mother's thoughts, hopes, and regrets over the 5 years they'd been separated. Years of words unspoken, love unexpressed except on these pages. Another entry caught her eye. "I dreamed of Robert last night. We were in the garden planting roses while Lily rode her bike in circles around us. He told me, 'She'll be okay, Sarah. She's stronger than both of us.' Even in my dreams, he's still the voice of reason, still my anchor. How do I raise our daughter without him? How do I explain that families can be built on choice rather than blood?" The sound of a car door closing outside pulled Lily from her reading. Through the window, she saw Andrea speaking with someone who had just arrived in another vehicle. With a jolt, she recognized William Harding stepping out of a black SUV. Panic rose in her throat. She wasn't ready to face him, wasn't prepared for more revelations or explanations. Looking around frantically, Lily spotted a back door off the kitchen. Without thinking, she grabbed her backpack, stuffed the journal inside, and slipped out the rear exit just as she heard knocking at the front door. The back of the property faced dense woods with a narrow trail winding between the trees. A wooden sign at the trailhead read, "Pinewood Retreat, 1.2 miles. Lily hesitated only a moment before plunging into the forest, away from William and Andrea, away from more complications. There was only one person she needed to see now. Her mother. The forest trail climbed steadily upward, sunlight filtering through the canopy of redwood branches above. Lily walked quickly, her heart pounding as much from emotion as exertion. She knew her impulsive decision to run was probably unwise. She was in an unfamiliar place, her phone was nearly out of battery, and she had no idea what she would say when she reached Pinewood Retreat. But for once in her carefully controlled life, Lily was following her instincts rather than her fears. She needed to see her mother without William hovering nearby, without lawyers explaining things in careful, sanitized terms. She needed the unfiltered truth, told in her mother's own words. After about 20 minutes of hiking, the trail opened onto a clearing. A tasteful sign announced, "Pinewood Retreat, a healing community," with an arrow pointing toward a collection of buildings nestled among the trees. Unlike the sterile psychiatric facility Lily had imagined, Pinewood resembled a small, rustic campus. Several cabin-like structures connected by stone pathways, surrounded by carefully tended gardens. As Lily approached the main entrance, uncertainty finally caught up with her. What if her mother didn't want to see her? What if she was having a bad day? What if the staff wouldn't allow an unaccompanied minor to visit? "Are you lost?" Lily turned to see a teenage boy sitting on a bench near the entrance, sketching in a notebook. He looked about 16, with dark, curly hair and observant eyes. "I'm not sure," Lily admitted. "I'm trying to visit someone, but I don't exactly have permission." The boy closed his sketchbook. "You're sneaking in to see someone? That's hardcore." His tone was impressed rather than judgmental. "Who are you here for?" "My mom, Sarah Bennett. I haven't seen her in 5 years." Something like recognition flashed in his eyes. "The Rose Lady. She works in the garden most days." Lily's heart leapt. "You know her?" The boy nodded. "My dad's a therapist here. I hang out after school sometimes, waiting for him to finish work. Your mum's nice, quiet, but she always saves the best strawberries from the garden for me." He studied Lily more carefully. "How you have her eyes. Can you take me to her?" Lily asked, desperation creeping into her voice. "Please." He hesitated. "They're pretty strict about visitors having proper authorization. But," he glanced at his watch, "it's almost 4:30. She's usually in the East Garden around now. I could show you the back way." "I would really appreciate that." "I'm Jason, by the way," he said as he stood, slinging his backpack over one shoulder. "Lily." Jason led her around the perimeter of the property, avoiding the main paths. "So, 5 years is a long time," he said as they walked. "Why now?" The question wasn't accusatory, just curious. Something about Jason's direct manner made Lily feel she could be honest. "I thought she abandoned me," Lily explained. "I just found out today that she's been here all along, that she left to protect me, not because she didn't want me." Jason nodded thoughtfully. "Family stuff is complicated. My mum took off when I was 7, haven't heard from her since. Dad says she had her own demons to fight." "I'm sorry," Lily said, meaning it. He shrugged. "It's whatever. Dad and I manage okay." He stopped at a wooden gate partially hidden by shrubbery. "The East Garden is through here. Your mum should be there, unless today's schedule changed." "Thank you," Lily said, suddenly nervous. "Really? Want me to wait?" Jason offered, "in case you need a quick exit or something?" The kindness from this stranger caught Lily off guard. "Would you mind?" "Nah, I'll be around. Just come back to this gate if you need me." He settled onto the ground, reopening his sketchbook. "Good luck." Taking a deep breath, Lily pushed through the gate into a sunlit garden. Raised beds overflowed with vegetables and herbs, while flower borders added splashes of color along stone pathways. At the far end, a woman knelt among rose bushes, carefully pruning dead blooms and placing them in a basket beside her. Even from behind, Lily recognized her mother instantly. Sarah's hair was different, shorter now with more gray than Lily remembered, but she still moved with the same deliberate grace, still tilted her head slightly to the right as she concentrated. Lily's feet felt rooted to the spot. What should she say? How do you start a conversation after 5 years of silence? As if sensing her presence, Sarah turned. For a moment, they simply stared at each other across the garden, both frozen in disbelief. Then Sarah slowly rose to her feet, removing her gardening gloves with trembling hands. "Lily." Her voice was exactly as Lily remembered, soft and slightly musical. "Is it really you?" Lily nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. Sarah took a hesitant step forward, then another, as if afraid Lily might disappear if she moved too quickly. When they were arm's length apart, she stopped, her eyes drinking in every detail of her daughter's face. Without a word, Sarah bent down to cut a perfect white rose from the bush beside her. She held it out to Lily, her hand shaking. "For you still plant them," Lily whispered, taking the flower. "I never stopped," Sarah replied, her voice breaking. "You always said they smelled like hugs." The simple exchange broke something open inside Lily. She stepped forward and wrapped her arms around her mother. The rose crushed between them as they clung to each other. Sarah felt thinner than Lily remembered. more fragile, but her arms were strong as they enveloped her daughter. "I'm so sorry," Sarah whispered into Lily's hair. "I'm so sorry." They stood like that for what felt like hours, holding each other as 5 years of separation dissolved in tears and whispered apologies. When they finally pulled apart, Sarah kept her hands on Lily's shoulders, as if afraid she might vanish. "Look at you," she said, her voice filled with wonder. "You're so grown up, so beautiful." "I found the cottage," Lily explained, "and your letter, and the journal." Sarah guided her to a nearby bench beneath a trellis of climbing roses. "I've written to you every day," she said. "Even when I was at my worst, I wrote to you. It was the one thing that kept me connected to the outside world." "Why didn't you tell me where you were?" Lily asked. The question that had haunted her for years, finally spoken aloud. "Grandma said you just disappeared." Sarah closed her eyes briefly, pain etching lines around her mouth. "After your father's accident, I fell apart completely. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. The doctors called it a psychotic break. I was a danger to myself, Lily, not to you, never to you, but I was afraid of what you might see, what it would do to you to watch me disintegrate." "So you just left?" "I thought it would be temporary," Sarah explained. "A few months of intensive treatment, then I could come home. But recovery isn't linear. I'd get better, then worse, then better again. Every time I thought I was strong enough to come back to you, I'd relapse." "Grandma could have brought me to visit," Lily said, unable to keep the hurt from her voice. Sarah nodded, regret in her eyes. "That was my mistake. I was so ashamed, Lily. I didn't want you to see me like this, broken, dependent on medication and therapy just to function. And then as time passed, it got harder to imagine how to bridge the gap. What would I say? How could I explain?" "William knew where you were all along," Lily said, watching her mother's reaction carefully. Sarah's expression shifted, surprise and wariness replacing the warmth. "You've met William?" "On the plane. He had a heart attack and I helped save him." Lily explained their encounter, the photograph, and William's subsequent revelations. "He said he's been paying for your treatment, that he's been watching me from a distance all these years." "That's true," Sarah admitted, "though I had no idea he was on your flight. That seems like quite a coincidence." "He said the same thing. He didn't know about the letter from the lawyers or the cottage visit. He seemed genuinely surprised." Sarah looked thoughtful. "The trust fund was established before you were born. William insisted on providing financially, even though he wouldn't be present in your life. Your father agreed, but only on the condition that you wouldn't have access to the money until you were an adult. He wanted you to grow up normally, not as a trust fund child." "Dad knew about William being my biological father." Sarah nodded. "Robert knew everything from the beginning. We worked together at Harding Technologies. I was in marketing, he was in maintenance. When I got pregnant and William chose his marriage and company over us, Robert was the one who held me together. He fell in love with both of us, you before you were even born and me despite my broken heart." Memories flooded back, her father patiently teaching her to tie her shoes, staying up all night when she had the flu, his unwavering presence at every school event. "He never treated me differently, never even hinted I wasn't biologically his. Because in his heart, you were his daughter in every way that mattered," Sarah said. "He used to say that biology was just chemistry, but family was a choice you made every day." A comfortable silence fell between them as Lily absorbed this. Finally, she asked the question that had been burning in her mind. "Why did you prepare the cottage and my room there? You have all my things, even Mr. Flopsy." Sarah smiled softly. "When I realized my stay here would be longer than expected, I asked William to help me create a place where we could rebuild our relationship when you were old enough. The trust stipulated that you'd be informed when you turned 12. I've been preparing for this day for years, gathering things from storage, creating a space that could be yours whenever you were ready. You kept track of me all this time." "William helped. He'd send photos, school records, little updates about your life. Your grandmother didn't know. She probably would have refused his help if she'd known who it came from." Sarah hesitated. "Are you angry with me, Lily? You have every right to be." The question made Lily pause. Was she angry? Yes, part of her was furious that these adults had made decisions about her life without her knowledge or consent. But another part understood the impossible situation they'd been navigating. "I'm not angry," she said finally. "I'm sad about the time we lost and confused about what happens now." Sarah took her hand. "What do you want to happen? This is your choice, Lily, No one else's. The question caught her off guard. For so long, Lily had been a passenger in her own life, moved from situation to situation by circumstances beyond her control. No one had asked what she wanted. "I want to know you again," she said slowly. "I want to understand what happened between you and William and why Dad made the choices he did. I want to figure out who I am with all these new pieces of the puzzle." "We can do that," Sarah promised. "One day at a time." A discreet cough interrupted them. They turned to see a staff member approaching, looking concerned. "Sarah, I wasn't aware you had a visitor scheduled today," the woman said, her tone professional but cautious. "This is my daughter Lily," Sarah explained, her arm tightening around Lily's shoulders. "It was an unexpected visit." The staff member's expression softened. "I see, it's wonderful to finally meet you, Lily. Your mother talks about you all the time." She glanced at her watch. "I'm afraid official visiting hours end at 5 but given the special circumstances—" "I understand," Lily said quickly. "I should probably go anyway. People will be looking for me." She turned to her mother. "I kind of ran away from William and the lawyer to come find you," Sarah laughed, a genuine, surprised sound that made her look years younger. "You always were determined when you set your mind to something, just like your father." She didn't specify which father she meant, and somehow that felt right to Lily. "Can I come back tomorrow?" Lily asked. "Properly, during visiting hours. I'll make sure you're on the approved visitor list immediately," the staff member assured her. Sarah hugged Lily tightly. "I'll be counting the minutes," she whispered. "And Lily, thank you for finding me, for being brave enough to come." As Lily walked back toward the garden gate, she felt lighter somehow, as if a weight she'd carried for years had been lifted. Jason was waiting where he'd promised, sketching the sunset through the trees. "How'd it go?" he asked, closing his book. "Better than I expected," Lily admitted. "Thank you for helping me." "No problem." He fell into step beside her as they headed back toward the main path. "Do you have a way to get back to wherever you're staying?" Lily's stomach dropped as reality rushed back. She had run away from Andrea and William. Her phone was nearly dead and she had no transportation back to the cottage. "Not exactly," she confessed. "I kind of bolted without thinking it through." Jason grinned. "Impulsive. I respect that." He considered for a moment. "My dad doesn't finish for another hour. I could show you how to catch the shuttle that goes down to Mill Valley. From there you could probably call someone." "That would be amazing," Lily said gratefully. As they walked toward the main entrance, Jason asked, "So are you sticking around in Mill Valley, I mean?" "I think I might be," Lily replied, surprised to realize she meant it. "At least for a while." "Cool," Jason said simply. "The high school here isn't terrible, and they have a decent music program if you're into that." "I play viola," Lily admitted. "Orchestra kid. Nice." His approval seemed genuine. "If you end up enrolling, I could show you around. It sucks being the new kid." The offer of friendship, casual, uncomplicated, made Lily smile. "I'd like that." As they reached the shuttle stop, Lily's phone buzzed with an incoming call. William. With a deep breath, she answered. "Lily, where are you? We've been worried sick." His voice was frantic. "I'm fine," she assured him. "I went to see my mom. I'm about to catch the shuttle back to Mill Valley." A pause, then. "You saw Sarah? How is she?" Something in his tone, concern, not possessiveness, made Lily soften slightly. "She's good. Better than I expected. We talked." "I'm glad," William said, and he sounded sincere. "When you get to the shuttle stop in town, I'll be waiting. We have a lot to discuss." Lily wanted to refuse to maintain her independence a little longer, but practicality won out. "Okay, I'll see you there." After hanging up, she turned to Jason. "Thanks again for your help. Maybe I'll see you around." "Count on it," he replied with an easy smile. "Sounds like you've got a pretty complicated life, Lily Bennett, and those are always the most interesting kind." As the shuttle arrived, Lily realized he was right. Her life had become infinitely more complicated in the span of 48 hours, but for the first time in years, it also felt full of possibilities rather than just obstacles. She had found her mother. She was beginning to understand her fathers, both of them, and somehow, amid all the adult secrets and decisions, she was starting to find herself. William was waiting exactly where he said he would be, leaning against his sleek black SUV at the Mill Valley shuttle stop. His expression was a complex mixture of relief and apprehension as Lily stepped off the bus. She noticed he had changed from his business suit into more casual clothes, dark jeans and a simple sweater that made him look less like a corporate CEO and more like a regular person. "You had us worried," he said as she approached. "Andrea is still at the cottage in case you went back there." "I'm sorry for running off," Lily replied, not entirely meaning it, "but I needed to see my mum without everyone hovering." William nodded, accepting this. How was it seeing Sarah after all this time? Overwhelming. Good. Complicated. Lily wasn't ready to share the intimacy of that reunion with him. "She's different than I remembered, but also exactly the same." "That sounds like Sarah," William said, a hint of old affection in his voice. "She always had that quality, changing and staying herself simultaneously." He opened the passenger door. "Are you hungry? We could grab dinner before heading back to the cottage." The normality of the question struck Lily as absurd after the day's emotional earthquakes, but her stomach growled in response. She hadn't eaten since a quick snack on the plane that morning. "I could eat," she admitted. They ended up at a small diner in downtown Mill Valley, the kind of place with vinyl booths and all-day breakfast. William seemed oddly comfortable there, not at all what Lily would have expected from a tech billionaire. "Sarah and I used to come here," he explained, noticing her surprise. "Back before everything, it was our place." He smiled faintly at a memory. "She always ordered the blueberry pancakes, no matter what time of day." Lily thought of her mother in the garden, offering her the white rose. "She remembers everything," she said quietly. "All the little details about our life before. She kept a journal of letters to me." William nodded. "Sarah has always had an almost perfect emotional memory. It's part of what makes her mental health struggles so difficult. She feels everything so intensely, remembers every hurt so vividly." A server came to take their orders. Lily chose the blueberry pancakes without thinking, then caught William's smile, but didn't acknowledge it. When they were alone again, William took a deep breath. "I owe you an explanation, Lily, about everything." "You already explained on the plane and at the hospital," Lily pointed out. "You got my mom pregnant, chose your wife and company over us, and then my dad, Robert, stepped in to marry her and raise me." William winced at her blunt summary. "That's the outline, yes, but there's more to it." He twisted his water glass, gathering his thoughts. "I met Sarah when she joined the marketing team at Harding Technologies. She was brilliant, creative, unafraid to challenge the status quo. I was immediately drawn to her, even though I was married with 2 young children." "You had an affair," Lily said flatly. "Yes," William admitted, "it was wrong." "It was. I knew it was wrong even as it was happening, but I convinced myself that what Sarah and I had was special, different. When she told me she was pregnant, I panicked. My wife Caroline had just been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. The children were 8 and 10. The company was in the middle of a crucial expansion." "So you abandoned my mom," Lily finished for him. William flinched. "I offered financial support, a place for her to live, anything she wanted except marriage, except public acknowledgement of you as my child." He looked down at his hands. "Sarah refused. She said she didn't want to be my dirty secret or raise a child who was treated like one. She resigned from the company the same day." Their food arrived, momentarily pausing the conversation. Lily picked at her pancakes, finding it difficult to eat despite her hunger. "What about my dad? How did he come into the picture?" William's expression softened. "Robert Bennett was the best man I've ever known. He worked in building maintenance, fixed everything from plumbing to electrical systems. He and Sarah had become friends over the months she worked there. He'd stop by her office to change light bulbs and end up discussing books or music." Lily could picture it easily. Her father's patient, attentive way of listening, her mother's animated conversation when she was excited about a topic. "After Sarah left, Robert came to my office," William continued. "He was the only person besides Sarah who knew about the pregnancy. He told me he loved her, had loved her from afar for months. He said he wanted to marry her, raise the child as his own, give you both his name and protection." "Just like that?" Lily asked skeptically. "Just like that," William confirmed. "But he had one condition, that I stay completely out of your lives unless you ever needed me. He believed a child needed stability, not a part-time biological father who couldn't fully commit. He made me promise to set up a trust fund for your future but insisted it remain sealed until you were older. He wanted you to grow up valuing hard work and character, not wealth. That sounds like him, Lily said softly, remembering her father's emphasis on earning things through effort rather than entitlement. I agreed to his terms, William said. It seemed like the perfect solution. Sarah would have someone who truly loved her. You would have a devoted father, and I could support you financially without disrupting my family or creating a public scandal. How generous of you, Lily said, unable to keep the sarcasm from her voice. William accepted the rebuke with a nod. I deserved that. It was cowardly, I know that now. But at the time, it felt like the best option for everyone. He paused. What I didn't anticipate was how much I would regret my choice as the years passed. I watched you grow up from a distance, saw what an extraordinary father Robert was to you, how he gave you everything I was too afraid to give. Why did you keep watching us? Why not just write the checks and forget about us? William looked genuinely surprised by the question. Because you're my daughter. I couldn't be your father, but I couldn't stop caring about you either. I hired people to send me reports, photographs. I kept a file on every achievement, every milestone. That's kind of creepy, Lily observed. A startled laugh escaped William. I suppose it is from your perspective. I told myself it was responsible, staying informed without interfering. But maybe it was just my way of staying connected to a life I chose to give up. They ate in silence for a few minutes, Lily trying to process everything she was learning. Finally, she asked, "What happened after Dad's accident? Why didn't you come forward then, when Mum fell apart?" Pain flashed across William's face. I tried. When I heard about Robert's accident, I reached out to Sarah, but she was already spiraling into depression. She refused to see me, said it would be a betrayal of Robert to let me back into your lives after he had given you both everything. But she let you pay for her treatment and the cottage. That came later, William explained. After she voluntarily admitted herself to Pinewood, her doctors contacted me as her financial guarantor. They recommended a long-term treatment plan and suggested having a transition place for eventual family reunification. The cottage was my idea, but Sarah embraced it. She's been preparing it for you for years, hoping someday you'd be ready to rebuild your relationship. And my grandmother? Does she know about any of this? William shook his head. Margaret never knew I was your biological father. She believed Robert was your father in every sense. After Sarah checked into Pinewood, Margaret agreed to raise you, but she refused direct financial help from the wealthy friends Sarah said were covering her treatment costs. She's a proudly independent woman. That's definitely Grandma, Lily agreed. So she has no idea about the trust fund or any of this? No, the arrangement with the lawyers was that you would be informed when you turned 12, and then it would be your choice whether to tell Margaret or not. Lily absorbed this, feeling the weight of these adult secrets and decisions on her shoulders. This is a lot to process, I know, William said gently. And I'm not asking for anything from you, Lily. I just want you to understand the whole story. What about your family? Lily asked suddenly. Your wife and other children? Do they know about me? William looked uncomfortable for the first time. Caroline knew about the affair, but not about you. My children, your half-siblings, don't know you exist yet. Yet? I've been considering telling them, William admitted, especially after my heart attack on the plane. It's made me reevaluate a lot of things. He hesitated. But that's entirely your decision, Lily. If you don't want them to know about you, they never will. The idea of half-siblings, strangers who shared her blood, was yet another shock in a day full of them. Lily pushed her plate away, no longer hungry. What happens now? She asked. With the cottage, the trust fund, everything? That's up to you, William said. The cottage is yours, or rather it's in trust for you until you're 18, with Sarah as the custodian. You could stay there with appropriate adult supervision, visit your mother at Pinewood regularly. Or you could return to Connecticut with the knowledge that you can visit any time. And you, what do you want? William looked surprised by the direct question. I want to know you, Lily. Not to replace Robert. No one could ever do that. But to be whatever you'll allow me to be in your life. A friend, a mentor, a distant relative, or someday, perhaps another kind of father. Lily studied him, seeing pieces of herself in his features, the shape of his eyes, the determined set of his jaw. This man was a stranger, yet she carried his DNA. It was disorienting to suddenly have this biological connection to someone who had been absent her entire life. "I don't know what I want yet," she said honestly. "I need time." "Time is something I can give," William replied. "I've waited 12 years. I can wait longer if necessary." As they drove back to the cottage, Lily gazed out the window at the towering redwoods, thinking about the tangled web of relationships that had shaped her existence. Robert, who had chosen to be her father. Sarah, who had left to protect her from witnessing her decline. William, watching from afar, bound by promises and regrets. At the cottage, Andrea had left but placed a note on the kitchen counter, informing them that she had stocked the refrigerator with essentials and would return in the morning to discuss next steps. "Where are you staying?" Lily asked William as he set her backpack down in the entryway. "There's a hotel in town," he replied. "I thought you might want space to yourself tonight, to think things through. But I can stay if you prefer not to be alone." The offer was considerate, and Lily appreciated that he wasn't assuming any parental authority over her. "I think I'd like to be alone," she decided. "But thank you." William nodded, respecting her choice. "I'll have my phone with me if you need anything, day or night." He moved toward the door, then paused. "Lily, I know today has been overwhelming, but I want you to know that whatever you decide about our relationship going forward, I'm proud of you. The way you handled yourself on the plane, how you've navigated these revelations, you have strength and grace beyond your years." The compliment, unexpected and seemingly genuine, caught Lily off guard. "Thank you," she said simply. After William left, Lily wandered through the cottage, truly absorbing its details now that she understood its purpose. This wasn't just a property purchased for convenience. It was a bridge her mother had been building for years, a space designed to reconnect them when Lily was ready. In her bedroom, her room prepared so carefully, Lily found the journal she had taken from the study and continued reading her mother's letters. One entry from 3 years ago stood out. "Today I made progress, Lily. Dr. Matthews says my medication is finally balanced correctly. I went a whole day without crying, without the crushing weight on my chest. I walked in the garden and noticed the colors again, really saw them, not just registered their existence. I'm starting to believe I might someday be well enough to be your mother again, not just in name but in presence. Robert would be proud. He always believed I was stronger than I knew." Another entry, more recent. 12 years old next month. Will you be taller than me now? Do you still hate green peppers and love raspberry jam? Do you still scrunch your nose when you concentrate? William sent a school photo today. You look so grown up, so beautiful with my smile and his eyes. Sometimes I wonder if you hate me for leaving. I wouldn't blame you. But I hope someday you'll understand it was the hardest choice I ever made. And I made it out of love, not abandonment. Tears blurred Lily's vision as she read entry after entry, years of her mother's thoughts and hopes preserved on these pages. It was like discovering a parallel timeline. While she had been living with her grandmother, believing herself forgotten, her mother had been fighting to recover, thinking of her every day. Before bed, Lily did something she hadn't done in months. She called the long-term care facility in Connecticut, where her father lay unresponsive. A night nurse answered. "Valley Pines Care Center, how may I help you?" "This is Lily Bennett. I'd like to speak to my father, Robert Bennett, in room 219. "Of course, Lily. Give me a moment to bring the phone to his room." There was shuffling, then the nurse's voice again, more distant. "Robert, your daughter Lily is on the phone. I'll hold it for you so she can talk to you." Lily took a deep breath. "Hi, Dad. It's me. I'm in California, can you believe it? I'm at this cottage Mom prepared for me. I saw her today at Pinewood. She's doing better. And I met William, my biological father." She paused, tears forming. "But you're still my real dad. You always will be. You chose me, and that matters more than DNA or biology or anything else." She told him about everything, the plane, the heart attack, the revelations at the law firm, the reunion with her mother. Though he couldn't respond, Lily imagined his reactions, his gentle smile, his thoughtful nod, the way he would have helped her make sense of it all. "A family isn't made of blood but of chosen love," she whispered, echoing his words. "I understand what you meant now, Dad. I really do." After thanking the nurse and hanging up, Lily curled up in bed with Mr. Flopsy clutched to her chest. Tomorrow would bring more decisions, more complications, but tonight, In this space created by her mother's hope and her father's legacy of chosen love, she felt a peace she hadn't experienced in years. As she drifted towards sleep, Lily realized she was no longer the passive recipient of other people's choices. For the first time, she was being offered the chance to actively shape her own story, to define family on her own terms, to choose who and what she wanted in her life going forward. It was terrifying and exhilarating all at once. But as she closed her eyes, one certainty remained. Whatever she decided, she would no longer be doing it alone. 3 months later, Lily stood in the cottage kitchen, carefully arranging cookies on a plate, while her grandmother Margaret fussed with the tea kettle. "Are you sure you don't want me to make sandwiches too?" Margaret asked, glancing at the clock. "They'll be here soon." "Mum said they're bringing lunch from that deli in town," Lily reminded her. "We just need to provide dessert and drinks." It still felt strange and wonderful to say Mom so casually, to have Sarah be an active part of her daily life again. The past 3 months had been a period of tremendous change and adjustment for all of them. After that first night in the cottage, Lily had faced a series of difficult decisions. Return to Connecticut or stay in California? Tell her grandmother everything or shield her from painful truths? Embrace William as part of her life or keep him at a distance? In the end, she had chosen honesty, difficult, complicated honesty. With Andrea's help, she had called her grandmother and explained about Sarah being at Pinewood, about the cottage, and yes, about William. Margaret had been stunned, then furious, then eventually grudgingly understanding. "You should have been told years ago," Margaret had said during that first video call, her face lined with regret. "I always suspected there was more to the story than Sarah admitted, but I respected her wishes to keep things simple for you." The revelation about William had been harder for Margaret to accept. "That man abandoned my daughter when she needed him most," she had said flatly. "I don't care how much money he's thrown at the situation since then." But when William had offered to fly Margaret to California to see the situation for herself, she had surprised everyone by accepting. That first meeting between William and Margaret had been tense but civil, both of them clearly prioritizing Lily's well-being over old resentments. Now, 3 months later, Margaret had relocated temporarily to Mill Valley, taking a leave of absence from her job to help Lily settle into her new life. They were living together in the cottage, with Sarah making daily visits from Pinewood as part of her transition program toward eventual outpatient status. William remained in San Francisco during the week, running his company, but drove up to Mill Valley most weekends. He had kept his promise to give Lily space and time, never pushing for more of a relationship than she was ready to offer. Slowly, cautiously, they were getting to know each other. The doorbell rang, interrupting Lily's thoughts. "That'll be Jason," she said, wiping her hands on a towel. "He's early." Margaret smiled knowingly. "That boy is always early when he knows you're here." Lily felt her cheeks warm. Jason had become a fixture in her life since that first day at Pinewood, showing her around Mill Valley, introducing her to his friends at school, becoming her closest confidant in this new chapter of her life. Their friendship teetered on the edge of something more, though neither of them had been brave enough to define it yet. "We're just friends, Grandma," Lily insisted, heading for the door. "If you say so, dear." Jason stood on the porch, his curly hair damp from the light rain, a paper bag in his hands. "Hey," he greeted her with his easy smile. "I brought dessert. Dad made his famous brownies." "We already have cookies," Lily said, stepping back to let him in. "More dessert is always better than less dessert," Jason replied, his life philosophy apparent in his grin. "How's everything? Ready for the big family lunch?" "As ready as I'll ever be," Lily admitted. "It's the first time everyone will be here together. Mom, William, Grandma, you and your dad." "No pressure or anything," Jason teased, following her to the kitchen. "Hi, Mrs. Caldwell." "Jason," Margaret greeted him warmly. "Perfect timing. You can help Lily set the table while I finish the tea." As they arranged plates and silverware in the dining room, Jason nudged Lily gently. "Nervous?" "A little," she confessed. "It's weird having all these people who are connected to me but not necessarily to each other in the same room." "That's what makes a modern family," Jason said with a shrug. "My dad says families are like jazz. It's all about the improvisation." Lily smiled, grateful for his uncomplicated perspective. Jason's father, Dr. Parker, had become another unexpected ally in her new life, offering both professional insight about her mother's condition and paternal warmth when she needed it. The doorbell rang again, And this time it was Sarah, accompanied by Dr. Parker. Weekends were now part of Sarah's transitional program, allowing her to spend Saturday and Sunday at the cottage as she prepared for eventual discharge from Pinewood. "Mom!" Lily embraced her mother, still savoring the newness of these casual reunions after the years of separation. Sarah looked better than she had in years, her face fuller, her eyes clear and bright, her movements more confident. 3 months of intensive therapy, proper medication, and the healing balm of reconnection with her daughter had worked wonders. "I brought fresh flowers from the garden," Sarah said, holding out a bouquet that included, as always, white roses. "And Michael brought that spinach dip you like." Dr. Parker, Michael, smiled warmly. "The secret ingredient is extra garlic. Don't tell anyone." As they moved to the kitchen, William's car pulled into the driveway. Lily watched through the window as he retrieved bags from the deli from his trunk, looking relaxed in jeans and a sweater rather than his usual business attire. These weekend gatherings had become a tentative tradition over the past month, an experiment in creating a new kind of family unit from the fragments of the past. It wasn't always smooth. Margaret still struggled to fully accept William's presence in their lives, and Sarah sometimes retreated into silence when memories became too overwhelming. But they were trying, all of them, for Lily's sake. "Need help with those?" Lily asked, meeting William at the door. "Thanks," he said, handing her one of the bags. "How was your week? How's the science project coming along?" It was still strange having William take an interest in the minutiae of her daily life, but Lily was growing accustomed to it. "Good. Jason and I finished the model yesterday. Our teacher thinks we might have a shot at the state competition." Pride flickered across William's face, the same expression she remembered seeing on her father's face whenever she accomplished something. It was disconcerting how similar they could be sometimes. These two very different men who had shaped her life in such different ways. Inside, the adults exchanged polite greetings while Lily and Jason arranged the food on the dining table. The conversation flowed more easily than it had during their first awkward gatherings, with Dr. Parker often serving as a social buffer between William and Margaret. "I spoke with Robert's doctors yesterday," Margaret mentioned as they began eating. "They're trying a new medication that might help stimulate neural activity. Dr. Levine seems cautiously optimistic." A hopeful silence fell over the table. Robert's condition had remained unchanged for 5 years, but none of them had given up hope for some improvement, however small. "That's wonderful news," Sarah said softly. "I've been writing to him about Lily's adventures here. The nurses read him my letters during his therapy sessions. I'm covering the costs of a specialist from Sweden," William added tentatively. "He's had some success with similar cases." In the past, Margaret might have bristled at William's financial intervention, but today she simply nodded. "Thank you, that's very generous." Lily watched this exchange with a mixture of hope and apprehension. Her father's condition was the one subject that united all these adults, transcending their complicated history and personal conflicts. "I've been thinking about visiting Dad," Lily said into the momentary silence. "During winter break, I want to tell him about everything in person." "We could all go," Sarah suggested, looking first to Lily, then to Margaret for approval. "If you think that would be okay." "I think Robert would like that," Margaret agreed, "seeing you both together again." William remained silent, understanding this was not his place. It was one of the things Lily had come to appreciate about him: his recognition of boundaries, his willingness to support without intruding. As lunch progressed, the conversation shifted to more everyday topics. Lily's adjustment to her new school, Sarah's progress in her treatment program, Jason's upcoming art exhibition. It wasn't perfect harmony, but it was a kind of peace, a shared commitment to creating something sustainable from their tangled connections. After dessert, both cookies and brownies, the adults moved to the living room while Lily and Jason cleared the table. "See? Not so bad," Jason said, loading plates into the dishwasher. "No one mentioned restraining orders or contested custody." Lily laughed despite herself. "Low bar, but I'll take it." She paused, watching through the doorway, as William showed Sarah and her grandmother something on his tablet, probably photos from his recent business trip to Japan, which he had promised to share. "It's strange how people can change, isn't it? 3 months ago, I thought my mom had abandoned me. I had no idea William existed, and Grandma was convinced she'd never set foot in California." "People surprise you," Jason agreed. "My dad always says humans are constantly evolving if you give them the chance. Your dad is pretty wise." Don't tell him that. His ego is big enough already. They finished cleaning in comfortable silence, then joined the adults in the living room. Dr. Parker was explaining something about Sarah's transition program, gesturing animatedly as he outlined the next steps. So, by Christmas, if everything continues as well as it has been, Sarah could be ready for full outpatient status. She'd still need regular therapy and medication management, but she could potentially live here at the cottage. Lily felt her heart leap at this news. The possibility of having her mother fully back in her daily life, not just for weekend visits, was everything she had been hoping for. "That's amazing, Mom," she said, squeezing in beside Sarah on the sofa. "Are you ready for that?" Sarah took her hand, her fingers warm and steady. "I think I am. It's been a long road, but I'm finally feeling like myself again." She smiled at Dr. Parker. "Michael and his team have been incredible." "You did the hard work," Dr. Parker replied. "We just provided the tools." Margaret looked thoughtful. "I'll need to think about work arrangements if we're staying longer term. The hardware store owner has been very understanding, but I can't take leave forever." "Actually," William interjected carefully, "I might have a solution. My company is opening a satellite office in San Rafael. We need someone with retail management experience to oversee the customer experience side of things." Margaret raised an eyebrow. "Are you offering me a job, Mr. Harding?" "I'm suggesting a possibility," William clarified. "The position would be filled on merit, through normal channels, but if you're interested, I could put you in touch with the hiring manager." It was a carefully balanced offer, assistance without charity, opportunity without obligation. Lily held her breath, waiting for her grandmother's response. "I'll think about it," Margaret said finally, which from her was practically enthusiastic acceptance. As the afternoon progressed, Lily found herself on the cottage's back porch with Jason, watching the fog roll in over the redwoods while the adults continued talking inside. "I never thought my life would look like this," she admitted, hugging her knees to her chest. "Everything's different from what I imagined." "Better or worse?" Jason asked. "Both." "Neither. Just different." Lily struggled to articulate the complex emotions of the past 3 months. "I always thought family was simple. You're born into it, and that's that. But now I understand what my dad meant about chosen love. William is my biological father, but Robert chose to be my dad. Dr. Parker isn't related to us at all, but he's becoming part of our, whatever this is." "Family," Jason supplied. "Just a different kind." "Yeah." Lily smiled at the simplicity of his definition. "A different kind of family." Inside, she could see William helping Sarah arrange flowers in a vase, while Margaret and Dr. Parker debated something over coffee. None of them were perfect people. They all carried regrets, made mistakes, harbored old hurts, but they were trying, for her sake and for their own, to build something meaningful from the fragments of the past. "Do you still talk to him?" Jason asked quietly. "Your dad, I mean." Lily nodded. "Every night before bed. I tell him about my day, what's happening here, how everyone is doing." She paused, feeling a familiar tightness in her throat. "The nurses say hearing familiar voices can help even if he can't respond, and even if it doesn't. It helps me to feel connected to him." Jason hesitated, then reached for her hand. "That's really cool, Lily, that you keep him part of your life like that." His hand was warm around hers, solid and real in a world that had proven far more fluid than she'd ever imagined. Lily found herself leaning slightly against his shoulder, taking comfort in his steadiness. "I've been thinking about something my dad used to say," she murmured. "That identity isn't one single truth, but a constellation of relationships and choices. I never really understood what he meant until now. And now I get it. I'm Robert's daughter by choice and love. I'm William's daughter by biology. I'm Sarah's daughter by birth and reconnection. I'm Margaret's granddaughter by commitment and care. I'm becoming parts of all of them, but also completely myself." Jason nodded, understanding in his eyes. "A constellation. I like that image." From inside, Sarah called out that it was time for their tradition, planting something new in the cottage garden to mark another weekend together. It had been Sarah's idea, a way of symbolizing their growing connections. As everyone gathered in the small backyard, Sarah handed Lily a white rosebush seedling. "I thought we could plant this together," she said, "like we used to in our old garden." William had prepared the soil earlier, digging a perfect hole near the fence where the rose would get morning sun. Dr. Parker held the plant steady, while Lily and Sarah filled in the earth around its roots. Margaret added the water, making sure it was thoroughly soaked. "There," Sarah said as they finished. "Another piece of our story taking root." Lily looked at the tiny plant, then at the circle of people surrounding it. Her mother, finding her way back from darkness. Her grandmother, adapting to unexpected change. William, seeking redemption through patient presence. Jason and his father, offering friendship without judgment. And invisible but ever-present, her father Robert, whose chosen love had shaped her in ways that transcended his physical absence. "For Dad," she said softly, touching one of the seedling's leaves, "and for all of us." As the afternoon light filtered through the redwoods, casting dappled shadows across their impromptu ceremony, Lily realized she had stopped searching for a single, simple truth about her family. Instead, she was embracing the complex reality. Family wasn't a fixed point, but a living, growing thing, constantly evolving through choice and circumstance. Robert had been right all along. Family wasn't made of blood, but of chosen love, daily acts of care, forgiveness, and presence. And in that expanded definition, Lily had not lost but gained, her constellation of connections growing brighter and more intricate with each passing day. Later that evening, after everyone had gone except Jason, who was helping her with algebra homework, Lily excused herself for a moment and went to her room. She took out the journal she had started keeping, inspired by her mother's letters, and wrote, "Dear Dad, today was good. Everyone was here, and for once it didn't feel awkward or forced. I think we're figuring out how to be a family, a different kind than we planned, but still a family. Mom is doing so well. The doctors think she might be able to live here at the cottage by Christmas. William is trying, in his way. He doesn't push, doesn't try to replace you. I think he understands that no one could ever do that. Grandma is even warming up to him a little, especially since he mentioned that job possibility. I miss you every day. But I'm also finding my way forward, like you always taught me to do. Keep moving, lily pad, you used to say. Life only flows in one direction. I'm planting roots here, but I'm carrying you with me in every step. A family isn't made of blood, but of chosen love. I understand that now, Dad. I really do. Love always, your lily pad." She closed the journal and returned to the living room, where Jason was waiting patiently, his algebra forgotten as he sketched the view from the window. "Everything okay?" he asked, looking up. Lily smiled, feeling a sense of peace that had been elusive for 5 long years. "Yes," she said, meaning it completely for the first time in a long while. "Everything is exactly as it should be.